Right, good day grade 10 learners. Welcome to our mathematics. I'm Skurile Ngube, and this lesson is proudly brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education. Right, grade 10s, I really hope that you are ready for the lesson. Let's make sure that our books are there in front of us. Right, we're going to be writing, doing activities like we usually do. Remember WhatsApp line grade 10s 064 748 8913. We really appreciate your participation. We really appreciate your input and the questions that you send us. Right, grade 10s, what I'm going to do today is a bit different. We've been doing trigonometry. Okay, we've done a lot in trigonometry. Today we're going to start a new concept. Right, we're going to look at the function concept. The function concept. You need to understand the things we are going to learn today. There's nothing new. We've done some of the things in grade 8 and 9, so it's revision. I will make sure that we understand. Okay? Right, the function concept. We are starting functions. Okay? Right, you can write today's date if you want. You can even write the topic, the function concept. I'll be telling you what to write. You can also write your own short notes if you can, but don't write everything on the slide, otherwise we won't manage to finish. Okay? Right, now let's start our lesson, grade 10s. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to understand the function concept. This is very crucial, very important. For you to understand the whole topic functions, it starts now. The things you are going to learn today, easy things, but they are very important. Okay? Right, understand the output variable, or we call it dependent variable. So I'm going to be doing a lot of repetition today, repeating terms so that we understand them. So the output variable is also referred to as the dependent variable. Okay? Right, we're going to talk about that in our lesson. You're going to understand the input, which is the independent variable. You're going to understand the input, which is the independent variable. What is dependent variable? Maybe some of you are asking, what is dependent, independent? What do those two things mean? These two terms mean. Dependent, it means you're depending on something, isn't it? Right. Like my children are my dependents because they depend on me. Okay? Right. You depend on us, your teachers, for you to able to what? For you to learn, isn't it? So you're dependent. You depend on something. Okay? And then independent means you do not depend. Okay? You're independent. When I'm saying you're independent, it means you're what? You're free, sort of. You make your own decision. You don't depend on anyone. When you say you get 18 and above, you're independent, means you're on your own, sort of. Okay? Something like that. Something like that. Right. And then we're going to work with relationships between variables using these things. We're going to use tables. We're going to use graphs. We're going to use mapping diagrams and the formulae. Okay, formula. Right, we're going to use these things. And we should be able to convert flexibly between these representations. Okay, if I give you the table, you should be able to give me the graph. If I give you the graph, you should be able to give me the table. Okay, right. In grade 8 and 9, we did input and output values. Do you remember those? Input and output values. Input means what? It's getting into something. Output is going out. That's functions. That's functions. Right, now, before we move any further, I want us to do the following. Copy and complete the flow diagram. Okay, right. Now, you have seen this diagram before. That's why it's a baseline activity. I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to explain when I give you when we are marking our work. So now I want you to copy the diagram. I'll give you 1 minute for copying the diagram, and then after that, I'll give you another minute to complete it. So it means you need 2 minutes for this. Okay, let's start now. In 2 minutes, after 2 minutes, we're going to mark our work. Complete the flow diagram. Right, welcome back, grade 10s. Did you manage to answer the question, or did you manage to complete the diagram? Let's do it together. Right, so what are these values? 2, 0, -3. What are they? They are called what? These are the input values, isn't it? And then this side, I already gave you the answer for that. This side, what do we have? What are we going to have here? We're going to have the output values, isn't it? Right, how do we get the output values? Because the input values are going to be changed. Let me call this thing a machine for now. Okay, that's a function. That's the machine that changes things. So the 2 will get into the machine, it will get changed, and then becomes the output. It comes out, isn't it? How is it changed? We are saying here 2 will be multiplied by 2, so it's going to be 2. Let me use brackets for times. Okay, times 2, and then plus 1. What is 2 times 2? Is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5, equals to 5. You see, we have the 5 there. Okay? 2 input gets into the function, the machine. Then it goes out, comes out as the output. Okay? And then we have 0. 0 gets in, is the input. 0 times 2 times 0, because say times 2 here. It says times 2 here. And then plus 1. Okay, what is 2 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. So the output is 1. You see that? I hope you're marking your work. You're marking your work. And then -3. -3 times 2. When you're multiplying a negative value and a positive value, what type of an answer do you get? You get a negative value. Okay? So it's going to be -3 times 2, or 2 times -3, which is -6. Okay? And then plus 1. What is -6 plus 1? Some people are having problems with that. -6 plus 1. What you do when you have a negative and a positive answer, find the difference between those numbers, and then you take the sign of the bigger number, isn't it? What is the difference between 6 and 1? It's 5, isn't it? And then what's the sign of the bigger number? It's negative. 6 is negative. So it becomes -5. Okay? Right. So the output value is -5. You see that? So this is the input value. These are the output values. These 1, 2, 0, and -3 are the input values. 5, 1, and -5 are the output values. Now, there's one thing I want you to know today, that I want you to take note of. Right? I'm going to teach you the terms that we use for the input values and output values. You must know all of them. Okay? So input values are also referred to as what? Independent variables, what? Domain and range. But I'm going to show you that. So you must know the names for input values. It's about 4 names. Okay? Right. Now, so 2, 0, and -3 are the input values. 5, 1, and -5 are the output values. Okay? Right. Should we move on? Please send us your input. You need more time, or you want to ask a question. Okay, please send us your input to 064 748 8913. Please send us your questions. Grade 10s, we need to interact. Okay? Even if you want to send us your work, please do so. Just take a picture, participate, ask questions. Let's do this together. Okay? Right. Now, the function. The function. What is it? A function is a relationship. Okay? What is it? It is a relationship. So there are relationships which are not functions. I will show you the difference. A function is a type of a relationship. So it means when you look at the relationships, there are relationships which are functions, and there are relationships which are not functions. So a function is a relationship between input variables and output variables, where this is very, very important. This applies to functions only, because you can have a relationship which is not a function. Okay? For functions, one element of the input is mapped to exactly one element of the output. That's the condition for functions. Okay? A function, one element of the input, is mapped to exactly one element of the output. Like there, we had a 2 that gave us 5. 2, which is one element, gives us one output, which is 5. That's a function. But if you have a situation where 2 is giving you 2 answers, 2 outputs, then it's not a function. Okay? So a function, don't define function and end here. No, that would be wrong. Okay? So one element of the input is mapped to exactly one element of the output. Let me give you 1 minute to copy this. 1 minute to copy the definition for a function. Right, welcome back, grade 10s. Did you manage to copy the definition? Okay, don't make a mistake. Know what a function is. We're going to talk about that also. Okay, we're going to continue talking about that. Right, now, independent variable. The input, the domain is one thing. So your independent variable is your input value. It is your domain. Okay? Domain. You see, I'm introducing things nicely. Now you're talking about the domain. What is the domain? Can you answer that? What can you say the domain is? It is what? It is the independent variable. You can say domain is the independent variable. You can say domain is the input value. So our input is our domain. Okay? Don't forget that. Now, I want you to do this. Can you write the following? Let me just give you the definition first. I'll tell you what to write. Right? It is the variable that is being changed in a function. The variable does not depend on another variable for its value. Okay, don't write the whole thing. I want you to write this. Just write independent. Write this, what I'm writing here. How do you write independent? Independent variable equals, okay, the input. Write that equals what? The domain. Okay, the independent variable is the input value. It is the domain. When I'm saying the domain, I mean the input value. When I'm saying the input value, I mean the independent variable. Okay, right. So it is the variable that does not depend on another variable. I gave you an example. I explained that dependent and independent when we started the lesson. And then dependent variable, it is the output value. It is also called the range. So the range is our output values or the dependent variables. Okay, range, the output values or the dependent variables. Okay, so it is a variable that depends on another value. Okay, I want you to write this: dependent variable equals the output value, just say output, equals the range. That's our range. Write that. Okay, Just for 30 seconds. I'm going to wait for you. Right, write that dependent variable equals output value equals range. Okay? Right. So now we know what a dependent variable is. We know what an independent variable is. Okay? We're going to be using these things, these terms a lot, domain and range, as we do functions. So you must know what these things mean. We're going to be talking about domain and range a lot in our in our lessons. Even in the examinations, you'll be asked about the domain and range. Okay? Right. Good. Right, let's move on. So a function is a special relationship between input values and output values where one input value is mapped to exactly one output value. We have talked about this. Okay? And then now I want you to give you a practical example of a function. Okay? Right, an example of a function. Remember, function I talk about is mainly algebra, but let me give you something that can assist you understand this. A function is like a machine. Like this box here that you see here is the machine. You know cornflakes? Do you know cornflakes? Corn. They're coming from corn. Corn is the maize. Okay? Corn is maize. So those flakes are coming from that. So what happens? If they put the maize into the machine that produces cornflakes, they come out as what? As those flakes, isn't it? So the maize is changed by the machine, and then it comes out as the end product, which is the output. That's a good example of a function. So the input values get into the function, and they are changed by the function, okay? And then they come back as what? They come out as what? As the output values, okay? So like here we have the input values. They are getting into the function. You see that? They are getting into the function, and then they are changed into output values. Right. What's the other name for input values? What did I say? Input value is also called independent variables. Okay, good. What's the other one for input values? Domain. The other one is domain. So input values are what? Are the independent variables, is also the domain. What about the range? We say range is what? Dependent variables. Range is dependent variables. What's the other name? Range. The other name is range, isn't it? Very good. Now, so when you talk about the input values, talk about the independent variables or independent values. We can use these interchangeably, and then the output is the dependent values, okay? And then we said input values also domain, and then output values also a range, okay? I'm keeping on introducing new things. What have I introduced here? Who can see what I've introduced? Look at this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Right, there's something that I've introduced there. We talked about input values, independent values, and domain. Now I've introduced something that I haven't talked about. What is that? You can give the answer verbally if you can see it. What is that? Okay, did you see that? I've introduced this. Do you see that X? Okay. Do you see that Y? Okay. Now, what can you say? Okay, this is the last thing I'm introducing today. Okay, I've been introducing things. You think that say is going to be keep on introducing things? No, this is the last one I'm introducing. So the input values are our independent values. It is our domain. It is also the X values. So the X values are the input values. The X values are the domain. Okay, right. And then we come to the Y. The Y values are the output values. The Y values are the dependent values. The Y values are the range. Okay? What do you get? Like the example that we had, which was 2x. You can say Y is equal to 2x. If you put 2 here where there's x, what do you look at? Y becomes 5. So Y is the output. X is the input. Y is the range. Y values are the range. X values are the domain. Where do we find X and Y values, grade 10s? Where do we find them? On the Cartesian plane. Okay, like this. On the Cartesian plane. Some of you are doing physical sciences and life sciences and other subjects also. I know that you draw graphs in those subjects. You do draw graphs, and then you talk about the independent variables and dependent variables. It's still the same thing. On the horizontal here, that's where you put your independent variables. I'm now teaching other subjects. Okay, independent variables. And then on the vertical, that's how you have your dependent variables. You know that? Okay? You see that? So your independent variables, that's your X values, the X values. And then the dependent variables, those are Y values. You see that? Okay? Let's look at this graph. If this graph is the function, remember I said the function can be represented using tables, formula, graph, mapping diagrams, isn't it? Now this graph is representing the function. If we put 6 into the function, what do we get? What do we get, Cretans? We get 3. You see that? So the input is 6, the output is 3. Do you see that? Okay. X is 6, Y is 3. Okay. Domain 6, range 3. If you put 7 into the function, what do you get? You'll get 4. You see that? Put 7, get 4. We put 8, we get 5. We put 8, we get 5. You see that? And then we put 9, we get 6. We put 9, we get 6. And then we put 10, we get 7. We put 10, we get 7. So now, let's summarize what we have learned so far. Okay? Right, we said, let's start with the independent. Where can I write? Let me write here. We said independent variable. Okay. Is equals to what? What's the other name for independent variable? Is it output or input? It's the input. Right. Is it domain or range? It's domain. I hope you are answering there verbally. You don't need to write. Okay. When I ask you a question, you can answer there in class. Domain. Is it X values or Y values? Is it X values or Y values? Independent. X values. Okay. You can add to, you wrote this previously, isn't it? Up to here. So you can add X values there. Okay. And then we go to dependent variables. Dependent variables, input or output values? Output, okay? Output. And then, is it the domain or range? It's range. Is it Y values or X values? It's Y values, isn't it? Okay, so you must know these ones, Y values. Perfect. Now, I hope that we are ready to do something now, and then we're going to be doing activities, isn't it? Okay, we're going to be doing activities. Now, I want to represent our relationship of the function using tables, mapping diagrams, formula, graphs, the things that we talked about, okay? And I'll be giving an example, then you complete. I give you an example, you complete, like that, okay? Right, now, given the function 2x, okay? Find the output values. Find the output values. You'll need 2 minutes for this. 2 minutes. Can you find the output values? For 2 minutes, let's do it. Welcome back, grade 10s. Thank you very much for being there. This Jabulani Technical High School. Thank you very much for being with us. Del Park Secondary School. Thank you very much for being with us. We really appreciate your input. Thank you very much. Let's continue. Given the function, find the output values. Find the output values. Right, what did we do? We're marking now grade 10s. Let's mark our work. Okay, let's mark our work. Right, so we put 2 into the function. We're going back to our substitution. Do you remember substitution? What do you do if you're substituting? Remember that if everything you're substituting, every time you substitute, put it inside the bracket. So it means the 2 is going to replace the x, and then we must put the 2 in the bracket there. Okay? If you're substituting, don't forget that. You put your 2 inside the bracket like that. Okay? Right. Then what is 2 times 2? What is the output? It is going to be, it is 4. It is 4. So the output is 4. Okay? Right. Mark if you got it right. Even if you got it wrong, you tried. That's very good. Right. And then we go to -4. If you put -4 there, and then where there's x, we put -4. Do you see the difference that you are going to have if you don't put brackets? You see? It's very important to put the things you substitute into the brackets. Let me say I didn't put the brackets. This thing was going to appear like 2 minus 4. And then 2 minus 4 is -4, which becomes wrong. So every time you substitute, put the things you're substituting in the bracket. Then it becomes totally different. Here is 2 times -4. Do you see the difference? Okay? Right. Now 2 times -4, what is it? It is -8. It is -8. So our diagram was supposed to look like this. So I think you have marked your work there. You've marked your work there. Okay? Right. Now, these are the input values, which are the x. No one is going to forget this. Okay? Input values are the x values. What's the other name? Domain. What's the other name? Independent variables. Okay? Right. Output values are the y values. What's the other name? Range. What's the other name? Dependent variables. Don't forget that. Okay? Don't forget that. Now, every input value has only one output value. It is possible to have this situation. Different input values having the same output value. Okay? Different input values. This must not confuse you. Different input values having the same output value is possible in a function. Okay? Let me give you an example. Right, if we have x squared there, and then our input value is, let's start with 2. What is 2 squared? You don't need to write this one. Just answer there in the classroom. What is 2 squared? It is, 2 squared is 4, isn't it? Okay? Let me put another input value. What is -2 squared? Please be careful. -2 squared is like this. -2 squared. Where the negative and the 2 are inside the bracket. What is -2 squared? Are you not getting 4? You are getting 4, isn't it? So you see that the 2 different input values are giving us what? 4. It is possible in a function. Remember that. Remember that, okay? Right. And then there is a simpler way of testing if a function, if a relationship is a function or not. Because there are some relationships which are not functional, like I mentioned before. So it is, I'm going to show you this method. Okay, you don't need to write it. I want you to observe it. Okay, right. It is possible to check using what we call a vertical line test. You know a vertical line. When I say vertical, it means you're standing up. Vertical. Okay. So to test if a function is, if a relationship is a function or not, you can use a vertical line test. Let's say I have this graph here. which is coming from y squared to x squared. Okay, right. Don't worry, grade 10 we're doing straight line graphs. So far we've done straight line graphs, but we'll talk about this one later. Now this is a function. So how do I see if this is a function? I just draw a vertical line. If it cuts the graph once, okay, let me show you. This one is just the solution, that negative 2 will give us 4 and negative 2 will give us 4. Don't worry about that. Now I want us to talk about this. Now the vertical line test. If you draw the vertical line and it cuts the graph once, anywhere on the graph, then that function, that relationship is a function. Like the graph, this vertical line cuts the graph here once. So what you do, you put your ruler on the left hand side. Like I'm going to put my ruler now on the left hand side. Okay, this is my ruler, you see that, and then I move it across the function. Then the ruler must cut the graph once, okay, along the function. As I move it across, it must always cut the graph once. I'll move it to 2 places. Okay, the first one I'll move it here. You see, it cuts the graph once. I can even move it here, it will cut the graph once. You see that? And then I move it there, it cuts the graph once. You see that? It cuts the graph here. That's a vertical line. You see that? So this is called a vertical line test. There's no way where the ruler is going to cut the graph twice or thrice or more than once. Let me give you another relationship which is not a function, maybe for you to understand. Right, there is what we call a circle. A circle is a relationship between the x and the y coordinate. But if you check the circle, is something like this. This is a circle. Okay, this is the origin. Now, if I put my ruler here, it will cut the circle there and there. You see, it's cutting the circle twice. So it is not a function. Okay? There are some relationships, again, maybe you've seen in some textbooks, where you find a graph which is like this. Okay? If you draw a vertical line, it will cut the graph twice. This is just a relationship. It's not a function. Okay? So there are relationships and functions. Okay? So a function is a relationship, but not all relationships are functions. Are we together, grade 10s? Okay, I hope you understand that. Please, if you have questions, 064 748 8913. We are waiting for your questions so that we can clarify things if there's something that you need clarity. Okay? Right. Now, the relationship between variables can be expressed using tables, graphs, mapping diagrams, and formulae. We said that when we started, isn't it? Right. Now, given the function x squared, now we have done this. I don't want you to redo this, okay? I'm going to give you this information here. We're using this information. We're going to use this information throughout for all these tables, graphs, mapping diagrams, and formulae. The function can be expressed using a mapping diagram. I'm going to show you how the mapping diagram looks like, and then you complete it, okay? I'll give you time to complete. Right, let's go to the next part. I'm going to show you what to do, then you complete, isn't it? Okay. Right, this is the mapping diagram, so we're using this diagram. The mapping diagram, you're going to have your input side and your output side, okay? Right. Input side, which are the x values, output side, which are the y values. Now, I'm going to give you 1 minute to copy. You see this part? Let me just draw here, try to draw this. Okay. Copy what is inside this box. Just copy what is inside the box for 1 minute. Let's do that. Right, welcome back, grade 10s. I hope you managed. I think the time was short, but just do it fast. Right, and then negative 2, 2, 0, 1, negative 1, like that, okay? Right, and then we're going to have the side for our output values. You see the output values. I didn't need, there's no need to repeat because we have 4 here and 0 and 1. Just 3 of them, 4, 0, and 1. Copy that also. Okay, output values, copy that. That is for 30 seconds. I'm not going to go anywhere. Just wait for you. 30 seconds, copy the output values. Copy the output values. Okay, output values. Output values 401. Right, now let's do it together. I'm going to do the first one. What does negative 2 give us? I can go to my flow diagram. I check negative 2. It goes to the machine. It comes out as 4. So it means negative 2 will give us 4. Right, so that's the mapping diagram. Negative 2 will give us 4. Now I want you to draw the rest of the arrows. I'm going to give you 1 minute. What does 2 give us? What does 0 give us? What does 1 give us? What does negative 1 give us? Let's do that for 1 minute. Well done, grade 10s. Well done. I know you're doing it right there. Right now, what does 2 give us? 2 will give us 4. Okay, 2 will give us 4. Okay, mark that. And then what will 0 give us? Check the flow diagram. 0 will give us 0. Okay, the output is 0. You see that? Mark that. What does 1 give us? 1 will give us 1. Okay, can you mark that part? And then what does negative 1 give us? You're following the arrows here. Okay, you're following the arrows on the flow diagram. What does negative 1 give us? Negative 1 will give us 1 also. Let's mark that. Did you get the 4 correct arrows? Okay, well done. This is the mapping diagram. So this is a representation of the function using the mapping diagram. Let's go to the next one. We're going to use the same information, okay? This one, we're going to use it for mapping diagram, for graphs, for formulae, and what, even ordered pairs. We're going to talk about ordered pairs. Right, the function can be expressed using a table. Right, let me show you the table, then you complete it. Right, draw the table. I'm going to give you 1 minute to draw the table and then 1 minute to fill it in. I've done the input values for you. Negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. Right, 1 minute for copying the table and then 1 minute for filling it in. So you have 2 minutes to do this one. Let's try. Welcome back, grade 10s. Well done. I hope I gave you enough time. Did you finish? I hope so. Grade 10s. Right, let's see. What does negative 2 give us? Same thing. Now remember, grade 10s, we are now representing our information, our function, using what? These, the tables, the mapping diagrams, the formulae, and what? And the graph. Okay? So, but we're going to use the same thing. So negative 2 will give us what? Will give us 4. Okay? So do you have 4 there? Okay, mark that. Okay, negative 1. What does negative 1 give us? I hope you didn't say 4, because negative 1 is here now. You see, this is negative 1. Negative 1 will give us what? Will give us 1, isn't it? Negative 1 will give us 1. Okay, mark that. What does 0 give us? 0 is here. So you follow the line there. 0. 0 will give you 0. Okay. And then 1 will give us what? 1 will also give us 1. And then 2 will give us 4. Do you see that? Now we can represent this relationship of a function using a table. Do you see that? We have represented this relationship or this function using what? A mapping diagram. We have represented this function using what? Using a table. Is there any other way of representing a function? What do you think? There is. What is it? We still have what? We still have ordered pairs. What are ordered pairs? You talked about this. You learned about this in grade 8 and 9. The ordered pairs, if you look at the Cartesian plane, is ordered. Means that there's a certain order that is followed. You start with x followed by y. Okay? What is x? Your input values. What is your y? The output values. So you start with x followed by y. That's why it's ordered pair. And then these are the x and y coordinates. How do you write x and y coordinates? We start with x followed by the y. So x is the input value, y is the output value. Okay? Should I show you the first one? Okay, if you know what to do, you can try. You can do it. But let me show you the first one for those maybe who are lost. Okay, is there anyone lost? No, no one is lost in grade 10. No one is lost in grade 10. Everyone knows what to do. Right, okay. And then negative 2 will give us what? Negative 2 will give us what? 4. Do you see that? So I have the x here, which is negative 2. I have the y here, which is 4. Do you see that? That's an ordered pair. Remember, ordered pair. Now, let's complete. Let's write the other ordered pairs. 1 minute. Right, welcome back, grade 10s. Thank you very much. There's a question from Kutotaro Secondary School. The question is it a must to use a table or to use a graph? Okay, 1, you must follow the instructions that are in the exams. Okay, or test. If they say complete the table, complete the table. Draw the graph, draw the graph. But 2, the most important thing for today's lesson is for you to see that these representations are linked, because very soon we're going to be starting our functions and we will be given information in the table and we are supposed to draw the graph. So you must be able to use the information in the table and draw the graph. Okay, so we must use these things interchangeably, from the graph to the ordered pairs, from the ordered pairs to the graph, from the ordered pairs to the table. We should be able to use them what? Interchangeably. It's a skill that we must learn in today's lesson. Okay, thank you very much for that question. Okay, right, let's mark our work. Grade 10s, let's mark our work. Right, 2 will give us 4. Okay, 2 will give us 4 there. And then 0 will give us 0. You can see that. And then negative 1. I start with x followed by y. Negative 1 will give us 1. We see that. We're marking. And then negative 1 will give us 1. You see that. These are ordered pairs. Okay? These are ordered pairs. Very good. How can you represent a function? The other one. We've done mapping diagrams. We've done the table. We've done the ordered pairs. What's the next one? The function can be expressed using a graph. Do you see that? Now, let's say you have those ordered pairs. You should be able to plot the graph. Now, plotting the graph, we are not going to write anything. I want you to listen now and observe, okay? Just see what I'm going to do. Please send us your questions or your input. If you don't understand something, please ask so that we can assist you, okay? So for the graph, don't do anything, just listen, okay? I'm going to explain to you. Right now, the information on the table or on the mapping diagram or information you are given as ordered pairs can be plotted on the graph. Do you know that? Okay? We know how to plot graphs, isn't it? Right, I'll show you now. I have this Cartesian plane here. Okay, and we are going to plot our graph together. I said, just listen. I know you want to write, but just listen because we want to finish something here. Okay, but the most important thing is for you to understand, isn't it? Right, okay, this is the Cartesian plane. On the horizontal axis, what we have? Our x values, isn't it? The domain, the independent variables. And then on the y axis, the vertical axis, what we have? The dependent variable, the range, the y values. Okay, now let's start. We have, I'll write the ordered pairs. -2 and 4. So we have -2 and 4. Right. Where there's -2, we go to the x. -2, go. Okay, that's what you do. Use your ruler. And then y, you go to 4. Plotting, I'm teaching you how to plot now. We're going to use this a lot. Now, you see, where do the dotted lines meet? Here. Then I put my point there. That's my point, -2, 4. Did you observe that? Did you see it? Okay. Should we go to the next point? What will, the next point is -1. What will -1 give us? -1 will give us 1. So we have -1 and then 1. -1, you go, dotted lines. With time, you find that you won't be using these dotted lines. You will know how to plot. But you go there, 1, and then you put your point there. Okay? You see that? That's -1, 1. Then we go to the next one. 0 will give us what? 0. So the ordered pair, you see, I'm moving from the flow diagram to the ordered pair to the graph. You see? So these things can be used interchangeably. 0, 0, and then where is 0, 0? Where is it? Grade 10s. It's at the origin. At the origin is here. Okay, 0, 0 is there at the origin. Let's plot that. And then we go to 1. What will 1 give us? 1 will give us 1. So it's 1, 1. Right, where is 1, 1? We go to 1, x, start with the x, the input, then we get our output. You see, it's here, it's going to meet there. So we put our point there, and then that is 1, 1. You see that? Then the last point, we go to 2. 2 will give us what? 4. So it's 2 for x and 4 for y. And then let's go to 2, go up, 2, 2, then 4. There, where do they meet? Here. You put your point there. That is 2, 4. Okay? and then you can even join your points. So this is the function in the form of a graph. You see that? Okay, right. And then the last one, the function. Okay, did you get that? Let me just go back. I think I moved fast. Okay, this is our function. We have represented our function using a graph. Okay, I said don't write this one. It's fine. It's okay. Observe, just observe. We are going to use it a lot in our next lessons. Okay, right. Let's go to the next one. The function can be expressed as a formula. As a formula. Formula, what do we start with? Y is equal to, remember that equation, y is equal to, y is what? The output value. X is the input value. So what do we do to the input values to get our output values? Who can tell us? What did we do to these values to get these ones? What did we do? Answer there in the classroom. What did we do? We squared the input values to get what? To get the output values. So we squared what? What is the input value? We squared X to get Y. I said we squared input values to get output values. We squared X to get Y. You see the link there? So now our formula is going to be Y is equal to X squared because we squared X, which is the input values, to get Y, which is the output value. This is a formula. So given a formula, you should be able to come up with a table. We should be able to draw the graph. You should be able to write the mapping diagram. You see? Okay? Right. When we're plotting our graphs in grade 10, we're going to be using the formula, the table, and the graph a lot. Okay? Get the ordered pairs, put them on your table, and then you plot and draw your graph. Okay? Remember this, today we're just introducing functions, so it's going to be very, very important. We're going to use this a lot. Right. Now, I want us to try this for the last 2 minutes. 2 minutes we do this, and then the last minute then I give you the answers. Okay? Right. Now, given the following graph, you see the graph? I want you to represent the points on the graph using a table. Okay? Let me draw the table for you. You can also draw there on your side. This is the table. Let's say input values. What are the input values, grade 10s? Is it X or Y? X, isn't it? Input values. Right, and then output values, which is Y, okay? Right, and then input, we're looking at the X. Oh, you must do everything. You must do everything. How many points do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, now I want you to put your input value and the output value. Input value, output value, input value, output value for 2 minutes. Then after that, we mark our work. Then we'll be done. Let's try. Right, welcome back, grade 10s. Let's mark our work. The input value here is negative 2. Do you see that? Negative 2 will give us negative 3. You see that? So it's negative 2 giving us negative 3. Then the next one, mark that. And the next one, negative 1 will give us what? Negative 2. Do you see that? Negative 1 will give us negative 2. And then what is this one here? What will the input here? That's origin. That's 0. That's 0. 0 will give you what? Negative 1. Do you see the y value there is negative 1? So 0 will give you negative 1. And then we come to the x here, which is 1. You see 1. What is y here? On the x-axis, what is y? On the x-axis, y is 0. Remember that, okay? And then on the y-axis, x is equal to 0. Let me write for you. X is equal to 0 along this. Y is equal to 0 along that, okay? So here x is 1, but y is going to be 0. And then the last one, 2. 2 will give us 1, okay? Right, well done, grade 10s. I really hope you gained something from this lesson. It may not be enough. Continue revising, continue doing your best, okay? We are going to meet in our next lesson. I had more things to do with you, but unfortunately time. Okay, so now we managed to interact on WhatsApp. Thank you very much for the contributions. Let's just summarize. A function is a special relationship between input values and output values. But we say that the most important thing, right, is that one input value is mapped to one output value. Right, input values are manipulated or changed by the function to obtain output values. Input value are independent values and are the domain. And then output values are the dependent values and are the range. Domain, x values, range, y values. Okay. Thank you very much, grade 10s. Let's meet in our next lesson. Thank you. Goodbye.